Hello everybody, this is Unit 2 4 Day 4 video on compound inequalities. Compound inequalities consist of two inequalities that are joined by the word and or the word or. So for example, we have x is greater than -2 and x is less than 6. Or you could have something like x is less than 1 or x is greater than 3. Those are types of compound inequalities. Taking a look at our examples for our and compound inequality, you have to take both inequalities and kind of put them together. So like x is greater than -2, you put our open circle and x is greater than or equal to -2 and shade to the right. And then with x is less than 6, you shade to the left. But since it's a compound and you want both of them, that's what and is. So, if we keep them kind of together, notice that they both have the shaded region in between. So, an and inequality has the region most of the time shaded between. Now, when we looked at our or compound inequality, our two graphs are two separate graphs. If you notice, they don't overlap at all. So, on x is less than 1, of course it goes right, but x is greater than 3 on x is less than 1, it goes left, but x is greater than 3 goes right. So there is no overlap here. They go in different directions. So a good thing to know is and overlaps, or both directions. Now, let's do our interval notation, because we have to know how to do interval notation on these. With our and one, we don't have it going left to right. It's in the middle, so we won't include infinity here. So when we look at the -2, we have an open circle. That means it's not included, so we have parentheses. And it stops at 6. It's also an open circle, so it's parentheses as well. Now on the or side here, again, there's two different graphs, so you have two different intervals you have to do. So our left side here, we have, as you know, it goes left forever and ever. We start at -infinity and stop at 1. And of course, we put parentheses outside there and parentheses for the 1 because it's open. And then we start back up at 3 and goes right forever. So that's infinity. And then, of course, they're open, so parentheses as well. What you can put in between, though, since it's an or, is just the word or. Okay? So that's our interval notation for these type of compound inequalities. All right, let's do some more practice with graphing and interval notation. All real numbers that are greater than -2 and less than 6. So when we do our graph, we have going from -2, got 6. I'm just going to throw 0 in there. 0 is closer to -2 than 6. So we want it to be greater than -2. So greater than, we shade to the right. So that's for that one. But what about less than 6? So another graph, we have -2, 6, 0. Less than, we shade to the right. So if we put them together, so remember, we want to overlap them. Overlap our graph is going to be from here to here, shade in the middle, because they overlap. And you can do this all at once. You don't have to draw all three graphs. You can just end with our final one here. Also, our interval notation for this, of course, is just one interval. We go from -2, stop at 6. And they're both parentheses since they're open. All right, we have all real numbers that are less than or equal to 0 or greater than or equal to 5. So let me just go ahead and draw the separate graphs first. So we have 0, 5, I'll throw like -2 in here. So we want to be less than or equal to 0. That is a closed circle if we recall, because it's equal to. We go to the left since it's less than. The other part of our compound inequality says greater than or equal to 5. So we put a closed circle on 5 as well and go to the right. So together, these do not overlap, okay? So when they don't overlap, we just put both graphs on at once. -2, 0, 5. The one goes to the left, and the other one goes to the right. So remember our interval notation. We have two parts. We have two intervals. So first one, of course, goes to the left, -infinity. Stops at -2, but it is bracket because it's closed. Or we could have starting up at 5, going to the right to infinity. So for this example, this has our two inequalities written kind of all together. We want to think of this as and. Okay, so this is an and inequality. But because there are three parts to it, that means we have to do our inverse operation to all three parts. So when we solve for our variable, we have to isolate m, so we have to add 4 to both sides. However, you have to also add 4 to here and add 4 here as well. So you have to do it to all three portions. So when we get -3 plus 4, that's 1. 1 is less than or equal to m, that's what's left. And then, which is also less than 4 minus 1 is 3. And so this is kind of actually beneficial to us when we do our graph because it tells us where we're starting and where we're ending, okay? So on our graph, we only have to do the one graph, of course. We go from 1, I'm just going to throw 2 in there, 3 in there as well. On the 1, it's closed because if we think it's m is greater than or equal to 1, and then m is less than 3, so that's an open circle. And remember, and it has to do both, so it's in between. Okay. And then our interval notation. We start at 1, but it's bracket because it's closed. And we end at 3 with an open, with a parenthesis since it's an open circle. Our final example today shows an OR compound inequality, but you notice they're like two completely different ones. So remember, we have to solve for both of them. We have to do both, okay? And they're both going to go on the same graph. So let's do our first inequality here. Gotta isolate t, so we have to subtract 2 from both sides. -9, and we divide by 3. So t is less than or equal to, less than -3 for that one. And then here we subtract our 5. 4t less than -4. Divide by -4. T is less than 1. Excuse me, it's actually greater than, because remember when we divide by a negative, we switch the inequality symbol. So, let me just rewrite it. T is greater than 1. So let's do our graph here. In our graph, we have 2 parts again. So -3. And we want 1 there, so I'm going to put 0 right about there, since it's closer to 1. We put a open circle on -3, and it's less than, so we shade to the left. And then greater than 1, so open circle on 1 and shade to the right. And we do our interval notation, 2 intervals. So we have first one, -infinity. We stop at -3. Or our answer could be from 1 to positive infinity, going right there. Open as well, so all parentheses. All right, make sure you take really good notes. Remember, and is overlapping. Your graphs overlap, and or is 2 different graphs on the same number line. So have a good day. We'll see you in class.